Hello again. In Britain, black students do not do as well at A levels as white students. When they go to university, they are less likely to gain first class or upper second class degrees. This lack of academic success is seen in the United States, Canada, all over Africa, and indeed anywhere that black students and white take similar examinations. It is a cross-cultural thing. It seems to be something fundamental rather than an artifact of this or that society. So far, so good, and I do not think it necessary to provide references to support this. It's all too widely documented. The question to consider is why it is so, and more importantly, what, if anything, can be done to remedy the situation. The first thing, of course, is to find out why it is happening. Traditionally, there are two possible explanations, but this morning I'd like to advance a third option, something which might be able to reduce what is sometimes known as the achievement gap. The most popular explanation for what is seen is entrenched racism in the educational system. It is said that teachers have lower expectations of black pupils at school and are harsher in their treatment of them, being more ready to exclude them and see them as being disruptive influences or juvenile delinquents. This institutional racism wears down the pupils and causes them to fail, partly through low esteem and crushed ambition. This is pretty well the standard narrative to which most people in this country subscribe. In the educational system, I would say it's almost the universal belief that this is what is happening. There is another theory, one forwarded by what are sometimes known as race realists, which is that black people simply have lower IQs than white, and there is an end to it. And it is this which causes academic underachievement. In the case of the first explanation for what is seen, it must be observed that all the efforts towards equality of opportunity do not seem to make any difference at all to the achievement gap, which is as wide as it ever was. If, on the other hand, the second explanation is the correct one, then there's nothing to be done and we might as well give up, which is a depressing thought. There is a third possibility, and it is one about which we can do something. Quite a lot, in fact. Let me run through one or two simple facts for which I shall give references, and we can then consider the implications. The first of these is that black children throughout the whole world tend to stand, walk, and jump earlier than white babies. This is so in Africa, the Caribbean, America, and Britain, and is independent of environment and upbringing. The second fact is that black children go through puberty earlier than white ones. Then, too, black males have more testosterone circulating in their bloodstreams on average than white ones. How might these factors affect educational attainment, and what can be done to counter them? Being able to stand, walk, run, and jump at an earlier age than other ethnic groups might, together with having many role models who are footballers, boxers, and athletes, give black children a greater propensity for moving about vigorously. And this in turn could lead to their being less keen on sitting quietly on chairs for an hour or so at a time. It's easy enough to see that a result could be fidgeting and getting up and walking around when the rest of the class is supposed to be sitting down and working at some uninspiring academic task. Such conduct could lead teachers to regard the children involved as being disruptive or disobedient. This, by the way, is what is actually seen in the classroom. A tendency to move about and exercise the body would hardly be improved by the onset of puberty. which occurs on average a year earlier in black children than in white. That after the onset of puberty, black youths usually have more testosterone circulating in their bloodstream than white boys might also have the effect of exacerbating any inclination both to engage in physical activity and also to challenge authority. In the United States, it has long been observed that higher levels of testosterone in inmates of the prison system correlate to increased incidents of confrontations between such prisoners and guards at the prison. These three things might possibly combine together to make black pupils more at hazard of failing academically than other ethnicities. So, is there anything we can do about it? In Britain at one time, there was a tradition of educating boys at separate schools from girls. It is perhaps a pity that such a system could not be brought back, for it would certainly enable an interesting experiment to be carried out. For example, what if parents were persuaded to work with schools and encourage their children to do as they were told? At the same time, schools for boys could institute a new regime in which classes were shorter and breaks for physical exercise were longer. It might mean extending the school day a little, but perhaps restless teenage boys of all colours would find that they were more able to sit still and get on with their work, since such bursts of concentration would be shorter and interspersed perhaps with kicking balls about and other physical activity. It really should not be beyond the wit of educationalists to come up with a programme of this kind and see if it changed the atmosphere of the classroom. I can see no disadvantages and many possible advantages in trying to put together some experimental variations of the traditional structure of the school day and trying them out. Girls might benefit too from the adoption of different routines and perhaps more physical activity. There might even be a benefit in reducing the juvenile obesity about which so many people are concerned. There can be no doubt that unless bold and innovative schemes are devised, then the so-called attainment gap is liable to widen further in coming years. The present scheme, whereby the focus is on supposed racism, doesn't seem to be working. Black pupils are still falling behind, they're still not doing well at A levels, and they still don't do very well when they get to university as a rule. So I think it's probably time to try something else. Trying the schemes I've suggested could hardly be worse for black youths than constantly telling them that they are battling against a racist society and that their failure at school is not their fault but a result of white privilege. This will encourage pupils to give up because there's little point in struggling against society, and they will also begin to have a chip on the shoulder mentality, which doesn't do anybody any good, either them or society at large. What happens is that young boys become opposed to authority, stop even trying at school, and perhaps they drift into petty crime and worse. This is exactly what we see happening today, and I believe that anti-racism has caused immeasurable harm to the prospects of young black people, and that it's certainly time to try a wholly different approach. The results could hardly be worse than those we're currently observing.